And welcome back. Here we are with another review. Thank you for visiting my channel and taking a listen with me today. So please like, share, and subscribe if you're a return visitor. If this is your first time, well, welcome. On this channel, we do weekly recaps of what happened during the college track and field weekend, things to ponder about college track and field, upcoming videos, previews, a number of things, everything here related to college track and field. So thank you for stopping by. And just a quick review of our format. We have things split here in this channel four different ways, four legs, similar to that of a relay. First leg is sprints and hurdles, second leg is distance, third leg is jumps, and the anchor leg today will be the throws. Also want to highlight in today's recap where we're reviewing the past weekend, focusing on the 18 number one performances. Please make sure you leave a comment because as you can see in the comment section, I do regularly converse. Thank you all for listening to my last review. Probably one of the most watched reviews on this channel, so I appreciate that. Please take a look at the transfer video because there's a few pieces today that I need to add to it because of what took place this past weekend. So without any further ado, let's get started. We'll look at our first leg, which is our sprints and hurdles. And a lot of the running action happened on the men's side. And we have this year been focusing on men first, women second. As we know in the sport of track and field, it kind of alternates. So we'll get started with the sprints. And right away, USC here again, but this time someone else leading the 60. It's their 2024 NCAA long jump champion, J.C. Stevenson. He is now the new lead in the 60-meter dash. He just set it at the Red Raider invite at Texas Tech this past weekend. His actual time was 6:50, but again, because Texas Tech is at altitude, it was changed to 6:52. Still the national leading time over Max Thomas, who ran 6:53. And so that is correct. USC now at this point in the season has the number one and number two guy. And that's before we see what Michael Williams done. Again, we don't know if he's going to run this indoor season because he is still recovering from injuries. Travis Williams is coming along slowly, but we got two guys from the same university at 6'5" towards the end of January. And it's looking really good for USC. As I stated in a previous video, this is probably their deepest group in the short sprints. And I think this past weekend helped to validate that. What a treat it would be if we saw J.C. Stevenson do something we haven't seen. It's been a while since we've seen someone pull off the sprint jump double. Pretty long time. Could he be the guy to actually do it? So really, really curious to know your thoughts on him because he wasn't even mentioned in my preview as a sprinter. He's kind of the favorite to win the long jump, but he's now the national lead in the 60-meter dash. This, still early, still January, but we're a month out from the postseason, and he's looking pretty solid. Now, moving up to the 200, it's an Auburn guy. And even though they took a big hit losing Farrah Ash, who's now at Oregon, they still have a bevy of sprint talent. Leroy Burrell has been really, really good at not only developing his talent, but being able to find his talent. And Makanakashi Sharamba of Auburn is his new guy. He kind of stepped on the scene last year. We thought he was a real, amazing, talented freshman last year, and he anchored their 4x1. Curious to see what they look like on the relay this year, but he's tied the number one mark in the country with a time of 20.55. So we have two guys at the 25.5 mark this early. I'm curious to see how low we go. Are we looking at a low 20, like a 20.1, 20.0 in the late portions of the indoor season? Remains to be seen, but we can't ignore a time like that this early and from a young man who we thought very highly of last year. So curious to see what he becomes and what he does. And moving up to the 400, you have Logan Popelka of Texas. That's right, Edric Florial still doing it. He ran a time of 45.97 at the Dr. King invite in New Mexico. But like Texas Tech, their time is, considered at altitude, so it's converted down. So he didn't, his 45.97 gets converted to a 46.08. So no one has been under the 46-second mark as of yet. I do think we're heading that way this weekend. You got the Razorback Invitational, so there is more than likely going to be some fireworks this weekend. But we can't ignore that type of time. And from a guy we haven't even mentioned here, and it's clear that Idric Florio knows what he's doing when he's recruiting some of these transfers and developing some of these sprinters, because that's an impressive time this early. Could he potentially get to a low or mid 45? Remains to be seen. He's going to need that to compete in what is a pretty tough SEC. And our lone women's sprints and hurdles mark is the only hurdler we're going to mention today, and it's from Texas A&M's Jaya Covington. She ran a time of 8:01. No one's under 8 seconds as of yet. I do think that's coming, but that's an impressive time, 8:01 for Jaya Covington. And Texas A&M really kind of redeveloping their hurdlers. The past few years, the past two or three, they've really been focusing on producing some really good hurlers, because there was a period where kind of after Natasha Ruddock, they were kind of not producing at a high level, not like how things were had been before for Pat Henry at LSU. But Texas A&M clearly on the way back when it comes to their hurdlers, and Jaya Covington is sort of their next big hurdling star. And the last major node of sprints is the women's 4x4. It was Georgia, 3:30.39. It's still early. And again, the Razorback Invitational is this week. So fireworks will be going off. I'm almost positive we're going to see a couple of teams under 3:30, but hats off to Georgia. This was anchored by Aaliyah Butler, who began her season running a 51, by the way. Again, remember I mentioned her here on this channel. She is one of the favorites to compete for the 400, and I think that a time like that early in her season, after a very long 2024 season, which resulted in an Olympic gold medal from being on the relay, this is a great start for her. And, clearly things are going very, very well for Coach Carol Smith-Gilbert at Georgia. Recruiting very well and developing very well. And Aaliyah Butler anchoring what is clearly a really solid quartet. Now, moving to our second leg distance, we've got a few noticeable performances, just two, but also we'll talk about a really good pair of DMR efforts. On the men's side, you have in the 800, Abdullahi Hassan. And that name shouldn't be unfamiliar to you, even though we've not mentioned him a lot on this channel, we have. And he wasn't a part of my preview, but I think perhaps we may need to add him into that list of contenders, maybe. I'm putting him in the maybe section because the time he ran this weekend caught me way off guard, and I was reminded this young man was really good when he was at Wisconsin. Oh my God, did we forget? Yes, because he transferred. He is now at Mississippi State, and he is the national leader at 1:45.53 in the 800. And as I said in the preview of the season, this is going to be a really great 800-meter season, and the times are already eye-popping. I'm like, we're not even at the beginning of February when things really kick off for the distance runners. So we'll see what happens, this coming weekend, and I'm sure we'll have a wonderful conversation next Sunday and Monday. But let's talk about what we saw today. Yesterday from Hassan, 1:45.5. That is very strong this early in the season, and from someone who is already an All-American. He's proven himself that he can hang at the highest level. And so he's likely going to improve on that. And it's clear that choosing Mississippi State as his new place to go, transferring from the comforts of Wisconsin, a distance powerhouse in the Big Ten, to Mississippi State was clearly a smart decision on his behalf. The DMR for Virginia Tech ran a 9:36.41, not an eye-popping time, but a pretty solid time, and hats off to Virginia Tech for improving on the national lead. I do think in the end of the season, they will probably be there as one of the teams to qualify. They're in a very tough conference. As we have mentioned here in this channel before, the ACC is one of the best distance conferences in the country. I think the only conference deeper possibly is the Big Ten, but maybe it's the Big 12. But those are the big three. And for Virginia Tech, they've been a regular middle distance power for quite a while, and I don't think they're going to stop at any time soon. And if this is any indication of where they'll be at the end of the season, we're probably looking at an All-American DMR. On the women's side, we're going to move to the mile. And another transfer that has done well, Wilma Nielsen for Oregon. And she not only ran the national lead, but she broke Oregon's school record. Again, I didn't think anybody was going to run Maya Ramsden numbers, and no one's really quite fully there yet, but this is still a time that's within her region. Wilma Nielsen ran a 4:25.89 at New York this weekend. Wow, we now have three women under 4:30, and we might be under for a record breaking year in the mile. Because to have this many under 4:30 this early is a very positive sign, but perhaps the most positive sign for Wilma Nielsen is that she broke the University of Oregon. You all know what that means. She's broken their school record, 4:25.89. Get to know her. We need to be comfortable with her because I can guarantee you, with a time like that from a school like that, we are going to be hearing her name a lot more. The top DMR on the women's side this weekend came from Wisconsin, ironically. We can't do a review without talking about them. Their time 11:16.71, very solid this early in the season. I don't think there's really anyone in the Big Ten outside of Oregon that's going to really challenge them for DMR supremacy. And now that Oregon's got Nielsen on the end and a bevy of other great milers, they're going to be hard to beat. But Wisconsin has already shown that we're there. Michigan will not be there. We're developing a lot of young talent. And it's clear they're going to need to look into the transfer portal. But you have Ohio State and Michigan State really stepping up, but can they hang with the Wisconsins and the Oregons? And I'm going to say right now, I don't think they can. Hats off to Wisconsin. That's an outstanding time. Moving to our third leg, which will be our jumps, we had a familiar name. And I mentioned him in the preview. I've mentioned him a lot on this channel. I'm a MAC guy, as I've shared with you, Eastern Michigan alum, and I root for the MAC guys. And that's Hunter Garrettson in the pole vault. He is back atop the rankings, 18 feet, 10 and a quarter inches, 5.75 meters. Just hoping that he's able to keep things together this year and really live up to what I think he can live up to. He is really talented, and I really think he should be, a multi All-American. He really is deserving of really a national title because he's tall and super talented, got all the measurables, and we're just waiting to see him put it together at the championship meet. So it's not unfamiliar to see him here, but I'm really hoping that he continues to grow and continues to move towards the number one spot. This is also where I'm going to talk about the multi-event athletes because we had two number ones. On the men's side, it is the heptathlon indoors, and it came from Jip DeGrief of Illinois. Petros is at it again. I have mentioned him on this channel for the entire 2025 season, every chance I can get, because he's just a fantastic coach with jumpers and field athletes. Let's just put it out there. Let's admit it. Let's acknowledge it. I have said this on this channel multiple times, and I'm going to keep saying it. No surprise that he has a top multi-event athlete. Jip DeGrief, 6,070 points. I'm almost positive he's going to be there when it's All-American time. His name's probably going to be mentioned. Just putting it out there. I'm not shocked at this mark at all. He's not only leading the Big Ten, he's not leading the nation. Our first guy over 6,000 points. Hats off to him. On the women's side, quite a few new number one marks. Jenna Rogers sort of regains control of the national lead, jumping 6'4", and a quarter, 1.94 meters for Nebraska. Probably best technique school in the country because she's not the only top Nebraska athlete that we're going to be mentioning. Also, there is Julia Fixon in the pole vault, our first 15-footer, 15 feet and a quarter, 4.58 meters for the Virginia Tech Hokie. Again, I had mentioned in the preview they've been very good with their field event athletes, specifically their pole vaulters, and clearly she's not missing a beat. Julia Fixon, I saw her in person. She's very talented. The triple jump, Ruta Lasmane, a woman I had initially thought at the beginning of the season she had expired eligibility, and to come back after doing my research in the preview and saying nope, she's still there at Texas Tech and she's still flying high. 45 feet, 11 and a quarter inches, 14 meters even for the Texas Tech senior. Ruta Lasmane off to a great start for her final season at Texas Tech and her final collegiate season. She's the favorite for a reason. And then our final event in the jumps, Lucy Kiernast of Illinois. Yep, He's got the top heptathlete on the men's side. On the women's side, the top pentathlete. 4,428 points for Lucy Kines, and that does not include Miss Blazovica, who is to come. I mean, what are they going to do come postseason? Oh my God, I'm curious to see how many points they can rack up, excuse me, at Illinois. Hats off to Petros. What an amazing coach and what a great coaching staff he has assembled. I did not think he was going to be able to perform at this high of a level because it's Illinois and all the talent seems to want to focus on being out west where it's warmer and the south where it's warm and Illinois is cold. That clearly doesn't matter because he's just developing phenomenal talent and doing a great job at coaching. Here he is with another number one ranked athlete. I want to see that's now 4 events where he's got a number one athlete. Hats off to the entire staff at Illinois. And then in our last leg, our anchor leg, we're going to look at our throws. And on the men's side, it's a name that we've not mentioned in a while, and perhaps we should have. His name, may have briefly been mentioned in a preview. Briefly, not a whole lot. But I spoke of him highly last outdoor season because he's an outstanding thrower. And here he is back in action. Trey Knight of Cal State Northwich now leading the weight throw. 81 feet, 7 1/4 inches. Our first 80 plus thrower of the year. 24.87 meters. Outstanding mark. And I think we need to remember that he is an All-American and that he's always been very close to winning the national title. Can he do it? I think it's going to be hard to beat Akiji of Harvard, but Trey Knight is a consistent high performer. Nice mark for him. And then on the women's side, we're looking at Axelina Johansson, another Nebraska athlete. 61 feet even, 18.59 meters in the shot put. She's our first 60-foot thrower of the season. No surprise a Nebraska athlete is performing well in the field events. And she was actually last year's favorite going into the outdoor season to win the national title. And although she's an All-American and she has titles in her past, she's kind of been ignored. And here she is back again reminding all of us that she is to be a threat to win the national title. And we cannot forget her. And then you have Giovanna Meeks. And, she's an All-American, did very well at Vanderbilt. And I'm saying it like this because I probably should have mentioned her in the transfer video, but I didn't. And I think it probably just, this is under the radar. And we're reminded, I know that in the picture it doesn't reflect her current mark, but she threw the weight throw 77 feet, 3 1/4 inches, 23.55 meters for Cal. And leaving Vanderbilt is a surprise because they're very good with developing throwers, but she landed at Cal, which had Cameron Rogers, who was a great weight thrower and a great hammer thrower. Is she, the next one? We don't want to put that on her, but with a mark like that in the weight throw, come on, Giovanna. It was clear that she made a right decision with the transfer. And that is no knock on Vanderbilt, but we can't ignore the success Cal has had. Cameron Rogers broke the NCAA record and the Canadian record and has Olympic medals. So come on. Putting her on that, that pedestal, I don't think she's there yet, but she's threatening it. Hats off to Miss Meeks on an incredible mark and an outstanding weekend. And there we have it. Another week. It was week 3. We're heading into week 4, which I am so excited about this weekend. But last weekend lived up to the hype. The competition was so strong. And so many athletes lived up. And some shocked me. Like, I did not see J.C. Stevenson pulling off a time like that. I mean, could he really pull off the 60 long jump double? It's been so long since that happened. That used to be like a thing. Their top sprinter was also your top jumper. And I think part of that was because of someone like a Carl Lewis or a Marion Jones. But can he really do that? I mean, it's so early in the season, but the marks are eye-popping. I'm almost certain the winner will be a 6'4" runner in the men's 60. I think the women's mile was probably the most competitive I've seen because we're having names that we didn't even think would be here with incredible times. 3 athletes under 4:30. What a great season we're having so far, and I look forward to what is to come. So please like, share, subscribe, comment. Look forward to your feedback. And as always, thanks for supporting me, and I'll speak with you guys again soon.